Oh, Rarin, I am ready to get my revenge for the last video you and I did. Are you ready for what I've cooked up for you today?
What did I do to you? What did I do to you?
Last video you and I did, you decided to do, what was it? I think it was something to the effect of, I had to guess if a card was errated, Hall of Famed, or they just didn't touch it at all, or something to that effect.
I thought we had a good time. What do you mean?
Oh, we're gonna have a great time when I return the favor in kind. So today, I am going to be showing you Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and your goal is to decide if you thought the card was ever banned, limited, or not limited at all. So we're just gonna be doing the exact same thing except for Yu-Gi-Oh, and I'm excited to show you some of these cards because I am not gonna make this one easy for you. How you feeling?
I mean, I'm feeling good. I mean, this is pretty much what Yu-Gi-Oh has been the entire time we've done videos. So like,
you should feel right at home.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Let me show you your first card and let's see what you think.
Okay. This guy had this on lock. He was ready. All right, what is this? Air Knight Hair Shaft. That sounds right. Parshath. Yeah, okay.
There we go.
All right, so this is 5, so it has to be special summoned. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage to your opponent. When this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, draw 1 card. I'm not sure if the battle damage, how relevant that really is. Well, so battle damage would be the same attack, or is it like a trample where it does like the extra damage?
So battle damage is if it deals damage whatsoever. So this has piercing, which if it attacks a defense position monster, it'll still deal the damage, like the difference, where otherwise if it's in defense position, they take no damage. But if it attacks directly, that's also battle damage. So battle damage is just any damage that this card does by battle.
Okay, so I'm going to imagine for the most part, you're probably playing this for drawing a card. This looks like a pretty older Yu-Gi-Oh card, so that means like is this pre or post Pot of Greed ban?
This is legal at the time Pot of Greed is legal.
Dude, like, see that, listen, I know you're getting me back, but like, see, Hearthstone didn't have a Pot of Greed, like the equivalent in your game. So
yeah,
like,
you do. You have, what is it? Arcane Intellect?
No, I mean like Pot of Greed probably went in every single deck. Like every single deck played Pot of Greed. I can't even think of a deck that wouldn't want to run that card. At least that you've showed me. Arcane Intellect, yeah, like I get what you mean. It's the same thing, but like it wasn't like, holy shit, this card's broken in Mage. Like it was just a good card because cycling is good. But like not to the extent of, or I should say the power level of what Pot of Greed is. There's no equivalent in that, or there's no equivalent in Hearthstone that's the same power level. When you show me a card like this, it makes it impossible to evaluate because like, why am I playing this card if I can just run Pot of Greed? Because I mean, it's fine.
You could draw more cards.
Yeah, but like how many? I mean, I guess that's fair, but you've also shown me a ton of other cards where like you would just cycle through your deck enough. Like, do we really need the Air Knight?
That's fair. I will let you know. Pot of Greed at this point was limited to 1 copy. It wasn't at 3 or anything.
Okay. That actually is very
Pot of Greed, for context, Pot of Greed was limited to 1 very early on in Yu-Gi-Oh's lifespan. It did not stay at 3 for very long.
Okay.
Let's just clarify that. So you get 1 pot. You get 1 pot.
I assumed it was like that card was like, holy shit, this card's broken. They just banned it outright because it's like, we don't want this in our game. I didn't realize it was like,
the first ban list actually took a couple years to come out. Basically, I don't think they just wanted to make it that you couldn't play any of your cards. So they limited so many different cards to 1 copy to just basically not have to ban them. And then when they eventually did give us a ban list, they banned, Pot of Greed was one of the first cards banned, no surprise. They did just ban like the biggest, most egregious offenders of the bunch.
Right. Okay. All right, so
now that changes your perspective though for what it sounds like.
It does. Do I really need, okay, so you need to sacrifice a monster to play this, and then you also need to deal damage, but I guess as long as this is also specifically a defense position monster.
No, it can attack over something in attack too, because that's still battle damage. It just will also, if it does attack something in defense, it will do piercing, so it will trigger the second effect. How would this work in Hearthstone? Like, would something like this exist? This seems like a Hearthstone card, honestly.
So in Hearthstone, it would read, whenever this attacks, deal excess damage to the opponent's hero. And then if that happens, draw a card. Or like, if you deal excess damage, draw a card. I don't know, man. I feel like, okay, in Hearthstone, would this be playable in Classic? This is an old ass Yu-Gi-Oh card, I'm guessing, right? Can you just confirm that just so I know where I'm?
Yeah, I will say most of the cards I'm showing you are going to be older cards. Yes.
Okay, because I was going to say, like, current Yu-Gi-Oh, this card's unplayable. So, in
current Yu-Gi-Oh, yes, this card's unplayable.
In Classic Hearthstone, would I run a neutral? If you deal excess damage to any minion, draw a card, pretty much. That's what it reads. Yeah, I think I would play that. in Classic. I think a lot of decks might actually want to run that. It's a little slow, but like in Classic, I think you can get away with it because we're running like Loot Hoarders. I could see it being played. What's the options? It's banned, nerfed, or just not touched?
Banned, limited, or unlimited.
Oh,
yes. And I will give you some help. Limited I'm only picking cards that are limited, not semi-limited for anyone who wants to get into semantics about it. Okay.
Those YouTube commenters are getting to you.
Oh, yeah.
I will go with, I don't know. I'm not thinking it's banned. It's no way it's banned. It's not that good enough where I'm like, damn, like, what the hell? Why is this still in the game? I can't.
It's Yu-Gi-Oh though. Drawing cards is insane in Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, but this is so delayed. Like this is so delayed. And like you've also told me like from other videos that it's pretty easy to remove stuff back in the day. So like I don't think you're like, if you know your opponent's running a card like this, you could be like, okay, like I'm just gonna save removal if it really gets like this. And also I was gonna say like maybe by the time this draws like 2 cards, you probably already lost the game. So is the effect really that? I'll go with maybe limited. I think this is fine. I don't think it's gonna be like, I'm not saying banned for sure. And I could maybe see it being a little bit toxic if you could just snowball the hell out of it. But actually no, fuck it. It's fine. It didn't get limited. It was left alone. There's no way.
Unlimited. You think it's unlimited?
Yeah.
Okay, final answer?
Final answer.
All right, let's talk about Aeronite Parshath. Aeronite Parshath by old Yu-Gi-Oh standards, and that's going to be the context for a lot of these cards. Aeronite Parshath is a fucking house. This card is crazy good. So the thing is, I would say that the biggest weakness of Aeronite Parshath is the fact that it does require a tribute, and then on top of that, it is 1900 attack. But there are ways that you can cheat that out, because if you get it to the graveyard, you can resurrect it through a myriad of different means, so you don't even have to care about the fact that you need to tribute it out. So that's like the best advantage of it. And if this card connects like even one time, you probably are going to feel like you lost the game, because it already just effectively replaced itself. And if it sticks around for longer and you don't have removal, it's just going to run away with the game. Not to mention, there was just so many good monsters in older Yu-Gi-Oh that are flip effect monsters, and flip effect monsters typically have really low stats because the trade-off is they have really good effects when they get flipped up. And Aeronite Parshath just eats those cards alive. So yes, they may get whatever effect when they get flipped up, but it doesn't matter because Aeronite's going to deal like a quarter of their life points to them when it attacks, and they get to draw a card in the process. And so you're right. It has never been banned or limited. It is a card that I think, because of the fact that it required a tribute summon, it was just a card that everyone ran only one singular copy of in their deck. And then when they had it, cool, they played with it. But if they didn't see it, it wasn't the end of the world. It was searchable. Its 1400 defense stat was actually quite relevant because that meant it was tutorable with Witch of the Black Forest. And it wasn't really that hard to tribute summon stuff out back in the day. But as far as tribute summons go, like this is definitely one of the best tribute summons in old Yu-Gi-Oh, and it's not even close.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, you were like, I kind of forgot to mention it. The fact that you have to special summon this card means that you're paying 1 card already. You can almost see the first draw is just like equaling that out, and then you have to attack again to draw another card. I don't know. Right. You were going on a list there, like this card was gonna be like giga nuts and it was gonna be banned. I was waiting for you to say it, but like you're just like, no, it's fine.
Nah, that's fine. I think, honestly, because if this was like a normal summonable monster, it would probably maybe have been banned. But I think the fact that it was a tribute summon monster definitely limited this card's abusiveness, let's say.
I'd agree.
But I don't know. All right, so you're 1 for 1. You're 1 for 1. You're on the board. Let's see what you think about this card.
My God, that speech at the end was giving me a fucking... You're getting me scared there, man. I was like, holy shit. Fissure. Destroy the one face-up monster your opponent controls that has the lowest attack. If it's a tie, you get to choose. Destroy the one face-up monster your opponent controls that has the lowest attack. If it's a tie, you get to choose. So this is just spot removal. How good is spot removal in Yu-Gi-Oh?
Can you tell us?
Probably fine. Okay, at Hearthstone, destroy the face. Okay, so Hearthstone has this kind of... Well, okay, hold on. I'm basing this in Classic. In Classic, Hearthstone had Shadow Word Pain, which was 2 mana, destroy a minion that has 3 or less attack. That card was playable in Priest. Priest wasn't great, but that was a good card. Did we have anything else that was really that relevant? Yeah, we did. We had like Stamping and Kodo, which was kind of played at 5 mana that was good in Paladin because of other cards. Again, like how good could this card really be? You're going 1 for 1. And that usually that is fine as long as you're pushing some kind of tempo advantage. But again, like you showed me so many cards. I don't really care about this. I think I'd rather have other cards in my deck.
Not just a 1-for-1. It's just a 1-for-1.
Okay, the fact that you're saying that makes me think that it's better, but I still think it is. I think it is 1-for-1. I literally, like, I try to imagine a world in Hearthstone, like, would this be played? This card's probably really bad in Hearthstone. There's a lot of token generation, so like it's not the exact same thing. In Yu-Gi-Oh, your opponent plays one monster. Reminder, you can't play the spell card on the opponent's turn.
This one, no, because it's a normal spell, so you'd have to play this on your turn.
Okay, I think it's unlimited. I can't see it being like anything else. Like, there's no way this is broken. There's no way. You showed me so many better cards. Final answer. All
right, let's talk about Fisher. So during the era of, I want to say it was 2000, it was either late 2006, early 2007, might be late 2007, but somewhere around there. Fisher actually got limited to one copy. And not just for a singular format. It was actually limited to one copy for several formats until they eventually did unlimited. This was really weird. So this was during a time where Yu-Gi-Oh was very like anti-removal. I don't really know how to describe it, but the best board wipes in the game were both banned, which were Dark Hole and Raigeki. Dark Hole just is a spell that destroys all monsters on the field. Raigeki just destroys all opponents' monsters on the field, so it's strictly better than Dark Hole most of the time. So those are both banned. Mirror Force, the iconic trap card that destroys all monsters, that card was at one copy, and that card was banned not too long previously before that, so there was even less removal in the format at the time. And on the ban list, both Fisher and another card that are 1-for-1 spot removal called Smashing Ground. Both of these cards got limited to one copy because both Fisher and Smashing Ground were being played in so many different decks at multiple copies because it was a very 1-for-1 heavy format during this time in Yu-Gi-Oh! So much so that they ended up seeing their way onto the limited list for several formats until they eventually decided this is really fucking stupid and we're going to put these cards back to 3. So you are incorrect.
Wait, hold on. So well, I just got to understand. So it's not the card was good. They just decided to put it on the list. That's what I understood from what you said.
As far as we understand, because unlike you spoiled Hearthstone players, our company doesn't tell us why they make these changes to the ban and limited list. Yes, that is from the understanding, because there are other forms of 1-for-1 removal that are trap cards. Like there's like when an opponent's monster attacks, flip the trap card, destroy the monster, right? But that's more reactive, where Fisher was more proactive. There were just a lot of decks during this time that were just playing triple Smashing Ground, triple Fisher, and it was just like this very 1-for-1 just like removal fest. And so they're just like, okay, we're just gonna, I guess, increase deck diversity, we're going to limit both of these cards.
Fuck?
Yes.
Okay. Shout out to you.
I'm sure, and if I'm wrong, I'm sure the comments are going to correct me. So,
what the hell? So
yeah, it was a very weird time that a card like this got limited to one copy.
All right, bro. I don't know about that one. That seems so fucked for me to guess that. Like, the card doesn't look that good, but okay, it's fine. It's fine. I'll take the L.
That's part of the game. That's part of the game.
Right,
it's not like you showed me any of those cards. Anyway, let's show you your next cards. This is why people watch this. They don't even care about the cards anymore. They just want to see how much we mess with the other person.
Like, okay, it's fine. I'm gonna go to Nightmare Wheel. What a card here. Holy shit. Nightmare Wheel.
Yeah, that's you right now.
Which, the guy on the wheel? Oh, God. Yeah. Let me zoom in on this real fast. Oh, yeah, I'm fucking cooked. It's over. Okay. Activate this card by targeting one monster your opponent controls. It cannot attack or change its battle position. When it leaves the field, destroy this card. During each of your standby phases, inflict 500 damage to your opponent. That monster must be on the field to activate and to resolve this effect. During each of your standby phases, inflict 500 damage to your opponent. Remind me, there's standby, main phase, battle phase, main phase, and turn. So
you forgot the draw phase before the standby phase.
My bad.
The rest of that's right.
So you get 500 damage per turn, per your turn, I should say.
Yes.
The monster must be on the field to activate to resolve this effect. So this card basically says stop your opponent from attacking with the monster, and you do 500 damage to them once per turn. And so that. Okay. Sorry, I'm laughing like Joker because I feel like you're gonna tell me I'm gonna think this card's way better than the last one for the record. I'd rather have this card over Fissure. I'm surprised. I guess this is a trap card, but this is like.
That is what it says. Yes.
You can activate. Well, let me finish. I was gonna say you can activate this on your opponent's turn. Which makes this a lot better in my opinion, right? Because I feel like if you have that, obviously you have to set it so it is slower, but that is a very, very like cool effect because your opponent can do their like battle phase while they're in their battle phase. You could trigger this So then they wasted their battle phase potentially if there's only one monster, etc. Right?
Correct.
This could be like a really big like delaying of their game plan. And I think that on average, I mean, I guess Fissure does the same thing, but like they could always, okay, so then the plus side for this card for your opponent is then they can sacrifice the monster, I'm guessing. And I guess if you can answer this trap card as well, then like their monster still gets to attack, which is kind of annoying. But I just so I am clear too, I'm attacking and my opponent does have a nightmare wheeled monster. It can still defend. Like I still have to get through that monster to attack them directly.
Yes, you do still have to get through that monster. Correct.
All right, I think it's unlimited.
But it's still better than Fissure.
I think after saying the pros for my opponent, like it's not as good. I think this is not, I think it's like on par with Fissure. Like it kind of just does the same thing. But there are more.
Final answer.
Yeah, final answer. It's unlimited.
All right. So Nightmare Wheel is a really neat card. One thing you may not have noticed, and this is actually something that's a bit counterintuitive because I don't think a lot of people really think about this. Nightmare Wheel can actually target opposing face down monsters. So like set monsters. It doesn't say it has to be face up. So that's actually a really interesting application for older Yu-Gi-Oh! Specifically, because if they have a set monster, and remember, there's a lot of flip effects in older Yu-Gi-Oh! If you target a set monster with Nightmare Wheel, it can't flip up, which means they don't get the value off the effect, and they're taking 500 damage every single turn. And so Nightmare Wheel was actually used as a card in a lot of these like stall and burn type decks, not only to ward off opposing monsters attacking you, but also to prevent them from using powerful flip effects that might just help them win the game in any way. So it's a very powerful control tool in that regard. And yeah, it sucks. It's unlimited.
Okay,
it's bad.
Okay. Good.
Fissure is way better than Nightmare Wheel for the record.
Is it? Okay. Yeah. The flip effect thing is kind of cool, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's a cool application.
The more I read it, I was like, yeah, I'm playable.
You'd rather just kill the monster off. I'm not saying like if you were playing a stall burn deck back in the day, like you would play Nightmare Wheel and you'd be okay with it. But it's not fantastic. Yeah, it's kind of mid.
It's funny because in Hearthstone, I think Nightmare Wheel is a better card.
And that's why I picked it because I thought you might think in Hearthstone that it would be a crazy card.
Yeah,
so
you should have done the reverse.
That was the intention.
I think Nightmare Wheel first would have been like, what the fuck?
I like to go in monster, spell, and trap order. And speaking of which, let me show you your next card.
Okay, you should have told me that. I've actually never noticed that. I'm gonna be honest. Tribe Infecting Virus. Discard one card from your hand and declare one type of monster. Destroy all face-up monsters of declared type on the field. Wow, okay. That's really interesting. Hold on. All right, let me think this in Hearthstone terms. This would be like 3 mana or less. I pick a type of monster or tribe. How many types of monsters are there? There's got to be a decent amount, right? Like insect.
There's 20 something.
This card like makes me think it's like an extra deck kind of thing. If I put this card in my extra deck and I'm like, oh, my opponent's playing like a dragon deck, like you can destroy them. Like it's so difficult to beat this.
Sure. Well, like in Hearthstone, like if your opponent's playing like a hunter deck and there's like beasts, right?
Yeah.
Like, I guess you could think of it that way.
That's like, that would be a really strong effect. Like, especially in Classic, like, so in terms of like board tension, Classic was like at an all-time high, right? It's very unlikely you died from hand. Having monsters on the board and like trading efficiently was like usually the game plan of what you're going for. Okay. That means that this type of effect in Hearthstone would be like very, very good. Like Flame Strike was played for that reason because like clearing the board was such a huge thing to do. I think this card in Hearthstone would be very good because Hearthstone also like at the beginning didn't have that many types of tribes. There's like very few. There's like Beast. I don't even think Elemental was a tribe yet. So like Beast, Dragons.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, Elementals weren't a tribe till Angoro.
Well, and Hearthstone's weird too because every minion isn't in like a tribe already. It's like sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. Right?
Yeah. So like in Classic, I'm just trying to think in my head like what this would be good for. I think it's like literally only good against Hunter because I think every other deck didn't run like enough. I mean, Demons maybe. Like it's interesting. In Yu-Gi-Oh, 20 different monster types is that's a tough one. That's tough. I guess so. As long as you're hitting one monster, are you happy with that? Like if Fissure was like limited for a little bit because they didn't want removal, I'm thinking this card would be played. Because worst case,
there are 25 types, but for context, one of them is a type that only 3 monsters in the game have, so that doesn't really count.
Okay.
And 3 of the types I think were invented after later on in the game's history. They made new types of monsters. So I think there's only 20 or 21 types during this time. Just okay, I want to give you the information. I'll give you the information.
Only 20. I think Hearthstone had like 4. in Classic. Only 20.
Maybe they learned. Maybe they learned from Yu-Gi-Oh. They're like, all right, we're not doing this.
Well, okay. So most monsters have like a type, right? That's what you're saying.
They all do. Yeah.
Okay. So in reality, like I think the dream is killing like off a whole board. In most circumstances, this card probably reads destroy a monster. So if Fisher was limited because they didn't want removal to be that prominent, I could see this card being played. You're getting one guaranteed, plus you develop something that actually seems pretty decent. The question is this like actually like, this isn't bannable. There's no way. So is this limited? If you showed me Fisher and that's limited, would this be limited? Excellent question, right?
Now the mind games are coming into play.
Yeah, see,
you act like I didn't do that intentionally.
I didn't say anything. What are you talking about? I'm thinking about it.
I'm over here twirling my invisible mustache.
Okay, would this card be like limited? Fisher's the only one. This card is better than Fisher, I think, on average, because rather than the lowest attack, you get any monster you want, and potentially more, which is pretty sick. I mean, you could take that, but you have to discard your one from your hand.
If it also helps you, the Fisher limiting was also like several years later. Just for some context there. I don't want to completely mislead you.
I appreciate it. Now, I'm going to be honest. I completely forgot this discards a card. I was like, damn, this just like removes a minion and you're pretty stoked.
Oh, if you didn't have to discard a card, that would completely change how you evaluate this.
Now I got to think about like how bad is this to discard a card? And just remind me, if you can't discard a card, you can't play this, right?
Correct. Well, you could still play it as a monster, but you wouldn't be able to activate the effect. Yes.
Okay, so that you just mechanically, that's different than Hearthstone. If a card says discard, you can actually just play it, and if you don't have any cards in hand, that's interesting. I think this is like fine. Like I doubt it. I think it's unlimited. I doubt this was broken. I doubt it. Discarding a card seems so. Wait. If you resummon this, if you like bring it back from the graveyard, does this effect still proc?
Well, this is an ignition effect. This isn't on summon.
So this is like battle cry type shit.
It's like you would declare that you want to use the effect. So you don't, if you summon Tribe Infecting Virus, you don't have to immediately activate the effect if you don't want to.
Oh.
You get to choose when you activate it.
No, it's unlimited. Final answer.
Final answer?
Yeah, final answer.
Oh, man. Tribe Infecting Virus. This is a card that everyone's looking at and is like, wow, that is a throwback, because I can imagine how many people have gotten absolutely demolished by this card, because this card is fucking crazy. This card is so good that it was banned, if you can believe it. So Tribe Infecting Virus, let's give some context to this. So there were around this time still some of the powerful board wipe type cards. You were kind of on the right track with like the Fisher, but let me clarify it a bit more. Okay. There were still some other board wipes during this time. It's not like this was the only card that was doing this. One thing you might have missed is that there's no once per turn clause on this. So you could hypothetically discard a card, call a type, destroy all monsters of that type. Cool. Discard another card, call monsters of the other type, destroy all those monsters. So depending on what your opponent has, if they have, two monsters of one type, one monster of another type, you could, as long as you have the cards to discard, wipe your opponent's entire board. Also in Yu-Gi-Oh, discarding a card isn't necessarily a bad thing, because let's say, oh, I'm going to go Tribe Infecting Virus, discard Air Knight Parshath, destroy your guys, resurrect Air Knight Parshath, I get to hit you directly with Air Knight Parshath, and now I get to draw an extra card off of that. That would be just a huge swing in terms of advantage overall.
Okay.
Just an incredibly... I really have not much I could say about it, because this card is just exceptionally good, especially when it was printed. There were like enough, while there are 20 plus types in Yu-Gi-Oh, I will say that there were some types that were better than others. For instance, warriors were a very popular type in older Yu-Gi-Oh, so there'd be like a lot of warrior monsters on the field. So while yes, there's a lot of types, there was probably a much fewer amount of types that were actually playable, which made this card slightly better in that regard, because it was a lot easier to get like a 2-for-1. Spellcasters were also popular. There's another card I think I may have showed you called Scapegoat, which summons like 4 goat tokens. So Tribe Infecting Virus you call Beast, it destroys all the goat tokens without you having to attack. Also, Tribe Infecting Virus can still attack after you destroy stuff too. There's no stipulation there that you can't do that. Just a phenomenal card all around. There's really not much else to say. By like modern standards, I think they actually errated this card now that I think about it. So I think it has like some restriction on it, but it doesn't see any play today. But by old Yu-Gi-Oh standards, Tribe Infecting Virus is an actual just house of a card.
Okay,
Very good card.
I just want to recap this. Hold on. So
Sure.
because you could do it multiple times per turn. By the way, I'm doing this now because I need to start actually reflecting on why a card's good. So when in the future I can be more accurate here. So because you could do it multiple times per turn, it allowed you to board clear, but you don't care about the cards moving from your hand. Like, is that why? Like, you just add them to the graveyard?
I would say for the most part, yes. Like, yeah, sometimes you're going to have a hand of cards where you're not going to be able to capitalize off of discarding them for Tribe Infecting Virus, but there were so many times where there was some combo of discard this card, and then you can either resurrect it or use it for something else. There was plenty of 2-card combos that by having a discard outlet that was so easy as Tribe Infecting Virus, that it was just a very beneficial card. Also, the stat line is decent. 1600 attack for old Yu-Gi-Oh! Was not like insane, but it wasn't bad. So it could actually it could actually attack over a lot of things. So it was like a pretty mid-sized stat monster too. If this thing had like 0 attack and defense, it honestly probably should have, in all honesty, because then it would have been a lot worse. But it still would have probably been played just because it was a board wipe. Yeah.
Okay. Good to know. I'm reflecting. I have to reflect because I have to understand why. Interesting.
Well, you can reflect as you look at this card.
Book of Moon. Target one face-up monster on the field. Change that target to face-down defense position. Interesting. What's the symbol next to spell card?
That's a quick play spell. So this could be used like a trap card if you wanted to.
Wow, I'm really glad I asked. Like, what?
Rare's like, wow, this card's way better than I thought.
Wait. Hold on. If they trigger a monster's ability and then you book a moon it, does the ability still proc, or like does it not anymore because it's in face down position?
Like, let's take Tribe Infecting Virus as an example here. So, like, if I use Tribe Infecting Virus, discard a card, declare a type, and then if you Book of Moon Tribe Infecting Virus, does the effect still resolve? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, exactly what I'm asking.
It does still resolve.
I'm utilizing this for what? For when a monster attacks, you want to activate one of your own flip effects. You flip a monster, you play this. There's a lot of use cases for this card. There's a lot of versatility, which means this card is interesting. There's not really a way to compare this in Hearthstone, I'm going to be honest.
Well, yeah, I would say flipping cards face down is almost exclusively a Yu-Gi-Oh mechanic. I know Magic sometimes, I think they do stuff with face down cards, but I think it's pretty rare from like the little that I understand.
They actually, one of the newer mechanics is like actually pretty close to it.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, it's I forget what it's called. I think it's called Manifest. It's like you could put a creature like face down and put it as a 2/2 token, and then you could spend the creature's mana cost to flip it to actually put it on the board.
Well, so I would say, I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh putting stuff face down is a core mechanic of the game.
Yes, you're
which
right,
I think the other games don't have. So I think that's
yeah, for sure, for sure.
So there's a lot of unique applications for this.
Yeah.
So I thought that's why it'd be fun for you to evaluate.
Well, Hearthstone. I'm just trying to think if in Hearthstone having a face down card, like that'd be so stupid. Okay, how good is this? Change face down defense position is so interesting.
You've also played some Yu-Gi-Oh. You can figure this one out.
Yeah, but like I don't know, like how good. I'm just like again, like yeah, this card's fine, but why not just play like Fisher, right? Like that's what it comes down to. Like the Fisher card's actually causing a lot of problems here because I guess this is like a quick effect, so you can do this on your opponent's turn. And like if like Arcanite was played, you could do this. It's also really annoying to deal with, like if your opponent goes through like the whole charade of something like a really big monster that you just flip upside down. Can you remind me, like when you flip a monster, the following turn you flip it back up, but can you also put it into attack position the same turn?
So when you flip a monster face up manually, it goes into face up attack position. You can't flip it up into face down defense position.
And then you could also attack the same turn.
We don't have summoning sickness, silly Raren.
Yeah. Yeah, listen. I'm just trying to ask these questions, man. I don't understand what the use case of this card is. The only one that comes to my mind is the like stopping something from attacking. Okay, so here, this is like a semantic question at this point. Let's say a card says like, if you have an insect on the board, and you play that spell, but then you flip it, that's the only monster on your board. Does that still count as having an insect on the board because it's faced upside down?
No.
Is that a use case for this? Like maybe, like you could also just kill it though, right? Like I'm pretty sure you just play a trap card first and then you say like that's useless. I'm pretty sure you're using this for more flip effects. I'm pretty sure that's what you're going for. Like you could use it defensively if you want to, but I'm pretty sure you're doing it for flip effects. I think this card's probably fine, but I don't think it's like touch. So I'm gonna go unlimited. I can't figure it out.
Final answer.
Was I cooking there? Yes, it is. Yep. Yeah.
So
tell me I was cooking though. Tell me I was cooking.
Book of Moon is actually probably one of the most versatile cards ever printed. And it's incredible considering how old it is that even by modern standards, Book of Moon has actually seen play within like the past year, if you can believe that.
Okay.
So Book of Moon's useful for a lot of different things. Yes, the flip effect thing can come up. You flip a monster up, you use the effect, you can Book of Moon it, reset it back down, you can flip it back up, get the effect, sure. But the biggest thing you have to consider when it comes to Book of Moon is the fact that in terms of card economy, it is a -1. It's not taking a monster out with it, so it's not a 1-for-1. So you have to make sure that if you are using this card, you're really taking full advantage of what this card is able to do. But what it can do is offer a lot of flexibility where some other cards can't. So let's give you some examples. I've shown you some other cards here. So Book of Moon, for instance, let's take Air Knight Parshath. If you Book of Moon an opposing monster, let's say the attack is too high for Air Knight to hit over, but the defense is low enough that Air Knight can hit over it. You can Book of Moon the monster so that Air Knight Parshath can attack over it. Air Knight Parshath does piercing. You still get to draw your card, and you get to kill the monster at the same time. So you kind of make up the value for losing on Book of Moon. Fissure is another good example. So Fissure has to destroy a face-up monster. So hypothetically, if you activate Fissure, I could chain Book of Moon to set my monster face down. If I don't have a face-up monster anymore, then that card's not going to get destroyed, or it's going to destroy the next newest monster with the lowest attack at that point when it's checking that. Tribe Infecting Virus. You actually were talking about this with your insect example. If I go Tribe Infecting Virus, discard a card, call a type. If I Book of Moon the monster that is of that type that you're declaring, it's no longer considered to be of that type because it's face down. You don't know what the type is technically, right? So it actually would survive Tribe Infecting Virus's effect. And so as you can see, as I'm talking more and more about it, there's a lot of just really unique applications for this card. Some other ones are, for instance, just lingering effects on the field. Think about Jinzo, right? Jinzo is the card that negates all trap effects. If you Book of Moon Jinzo, Jinzo's no longer face up, which means its effect isn't active. So now you're able to use your trap cards where you weren't able to before. Okay. For modern Yu-Gi-Oh, Book of Moon's really good. Not for that example, like with Jinzo, with some other modern Floodgate type cards, but also with some of the new summoning mechanics, like Synchro Summoning, Xyz Summoning, Link Summoning. You need to have monsters face up in order to conduct those summons. So if you go with a Synchro Summon, if you summon a tuner and a non-tuner, if I use Book of Moon and set your tuner monster face down, you can no longer conduct that Synchro Summon. So it's a way to, like, yes, it doesn't kill off the monster, but now you're kind of just stuck there with your guys on the field, and on my next turn, I can make a counter move and just make sure that, you know, your monsters are going to get killed in that way. So overall, just an incredibly versatile, flexible card, and was limited. This card was limited for a very long time in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's at 3 now, but even at 3 copies, this card is good enough that it still sees modern play. It's actually incredible. A card this old is still this good.
Wait, so I don't. Do you know the reason why they limited it? Like, was it just too good?
It was just like too good, if you can believe that. Being at 3 copies, it was just a very, I don't want to say difficult card to interact with, but it was just a card that was just incredibly flexible, and by old Yu-Gi-Oh standards, maybe a bit too flexible, that the card did eventually get limited to 1 copy, and it was limited to 1 copy, I shit you not, for like 10 years. It took that long for it to come off the list. And people, when it did, people were like freaking out because they're like, oh my god, after, you know, 10,000 years, we can play with this card at multiple copies. And it's cool to see that people did play with it at multiple copies. It was that good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I don't know why the card would be limited if, like, you want your cards to be that cool, right? Like, versatile. Like, there's a lot of, like, mind games there. That's what make cards games fun, right? Like, you have to play around if they have Book of Moon. I'm surprised they did it.
I think if there's a reason they limited it, there were decks that would, it was called Empty Jar. That's in reference to the jar monsters, Morphing Jar number 2, Cyber Jar, things like that. These were cards that were essentially mill cards. And so there's a counterpart to Book of Moon called Book of Taiyu. It does the same thing except reverse. So instead of setting a monster face down, it flips it face up. So there were some degenerate FTK decks that would take advantage of these monsters, flipping them up and down, that would mill your opponent out of cards. So if there was a reason to limit this card to 1, you could point it towards that. But I think you could also argue that it was just generically really strong for old Yu-Gi-Oh! That they didn't want too much of this card around. But the mill decks were definitely not. There was a non-zero number of those decks around. That's for sure.
Okay, that makes sense. No, cool card.
Yeah, really cool. Cool art, cool card. Yeah, everyone loves Book of Moon. It's a very awesome card. It's a very classic card.
Here's a real world question. Japanese is the language where you read right to left. Right.
Right.
So that's why the book is like the other way.
I would assume so.
Okay, yeah, I'm just asking a question.
It's funny. I have never thought about that until you brought this up to me right now. But
while you were explaining why this card was good, I was like, why is the book backwards? And then I was thinking to myself, like, oh, that's probably why. I was just curious to see. Yeah, but that's probably the case. That is probably the case. I hope at least. Maybe they just.
We also have there's a retrain of Book of Moon called Book of Eclipse, which is like almost the same art, but they just have different colors. And Book of Eclipse sets all opposing all monsters on the field face down that are face up, and that card is also quite good.
Okay.
As well.
I was gonna ask. So yeah, that makes sense.
It has a big drawback, but you know that's fine. All right, next card.
Drop off. Okay. So this is a trap card. When your opponent draws for their normal draw in their draw phase, your opponent discards one card they just drew. Whoa. So do they not draw a card?
That's what the card says.
When your opponent draws for their normal draw in their draw phase, your opponent discards one card they drew. When do you activate this? Like right at the start of their turn?
Literally as soon as they draw the card. Yes.
So they draw the card. Oh, okay. Yeah, they discard the card they just drew. Okay. Yeah. Is this good? I don't think so. You're paying 1 for 1. It's arguably even worse for you, right? We've had a conversation about how good discarding was in Yu-Gi-Oh, but you also, that was not the cost. It was also with like looking at their hand at the same time, so you had information of what is in there. Do they show you what the discarded card was?
Yeah, because it goes to the graveyard. Yeah, so you would see.
That is fair. Wait, that's way worse for you. Awful. Unlimited.
That's it.
Finally, it's like there's nothing to discuss here. They get a card.
Okay.
Get their card in their graveyard. You're putting this card in your deck for a potentially 1-to-1. I guess if this is the worst card in your deck and you're hitting like a really powerful card, this is sick. But on average, like I'd rather just put a better card in my deck.
Out of curiosity, it seems like you've made up your mind. What if I show you this card?
Map of Darkness, flip, target one trap in your graveyard, add that target to your hand. So what your play pattern is drop off. You drop off, play the mask, get another drop off, and then you play it again. And then your opponent just doesn't draw a card for 2 turns, and I guess you can maybe do it again. I mean, are we really like? This is Disneyland. Like, do we really want to do that? Like, is that really what we're going for? I guess you have the map.
I'm just throwing. I'm throwing a hypothetical situation.
Unlimited. No. There's no way this is playable. There's no way. This is so bad.
Final answer.
There's no way.
So drop off is a very funny card. Okay. Drop off is a very annoying card as well. This so much so that it was actually limited to 1 copy. For the exact loop that I just showed you. The idea is that there's another card. I didn't show you the full puzzle. There's another card that can continuously flip the mask up and down, essentially, or rather flip it back down so you can flip it back up to get drop off. And essentially, you just loop your opponent with these cards, right? And so there's another card called Time Seal. Time Seal is a trap card that says skip your opponent's draw phase. Now, in tandem with this loop, with Mask of Darkness and the other card, you can go Time Seal, skip your opponent's draw phase, then play the card, flip the mask down, reflip it back up, get Time Seal back, reset Time Seal your opponent again, and now your opponent just can never draw for the rest of the game, essentially. So once they use those cards in their hand, the game is effectively over. Okay. So Time Seal was a card that eventually got banned as a result. I think Mask of Darkness also has served some time on the limited list. It was either limited or semi-limited. I don't recall which. And Drop Off had a very similar play pattern to Time Seal. Now, you did mention, on the surface, it doesn't seem like it's particularly good because the card is going to the graveyard. There's a lot of value of having your cards in the graveyard, especially if they're monsters specifically. But having spell cards go to the graveyard, or trap cards for that matter, is obviously a lot better, and that's kind of what you want to hit. Because the play pattern was the same, and because Time Seal also got banned for similar reasons, they decided to limit drop off just to essentially stop the number of ways that these types of loops could exist, which meant that people could actually play the game and they weren't playing this degenerate deck that prevented their opponent from playing the game in this way. So it got limited. I got to be honest, I think after it got limited, I don't think anyone ever played this because it was just not good. And this card very quickly went back to 3 because people realized it was very bad. So it was just sort of a degenerate combo piece of a very short-lived time in Yu-Gi-Oh's history.
Makes sense. Okay, fine. So they did it because of the play pattern, not because of how broken
it was because of the play pattern. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Like sometimes you might hit something really good that your opponent draws, but you don't get to see what it is. Like, it could be a monster that they want in the graveyard, so you just like helped them. There's so many ways that this card could go wrong, but in tandem with being able to constantly make it that your opponent can't draw every turn, Sure, their graveyard might get loaded up, but if they have no cards in their hand to play to take advantage of the graveyard, then it doesn't matter. So it effectively was like Time Seal Light, if you will.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways.
I think I've showed you that card in Hearthstone called like No Amelia, which is like just discard the top card of your opponent's deck.
Yeah, you have.
So like that's what I was thinking of with drop off. Like, but you know, with No Amelia, you do it twice unless you're really going to like bounce it back to your hand, which isn't like a good strategy. So like that's where I was coming from. I didn't think there was a way to like just stop your opponent from playing the game. Like, I guess that sounds pretty good. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Old Yu-Gi-Oh is pretty broken. Old Yu-Gi-Oh is pretty broken. All right, what do you think about this?
Azura Priest. Not be special summoned during the end phase of the turn. This card is normal summon or flipped face up. Return it to your hand. This card can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each. Not be special summoned. During the end phase of during the end phase of the turn, this card is normal summon or flipped face up. Return it to the hand. This card can attack all monsters your opponent controls each. So just so I'm understanding this properly, when this card attacks, it attacks everything one at a time, or is it just like when it is played, it attacks every single thing?
When you go to the battle phase and you can declare your attacks, you can decide, okay, I'm going to attack, all 5 things you have, like one at a time.
Regardless, like if this lives, this is just returned back to your hand.
You don't have to attack everything your opponent controls. You can choose how many things you want to attack, but it can attack everything.
Oh, that's kind of spicy. Okay, yeah. This can attack.
It says this card can attack all face-up monsters.
Okay.
Or all monsters, not face-up.
That is,
Cool card, huh?
Yeah, in Hearthstone, like, we've had cards like this, kind of, but this is, in Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't think you've ever shown me a card that can attack multiple monsters.
I will say this might be one of, if not the first monster that could do this.
Okay, this could just be, you don't have to sacrifice anything for this. And I think 1700 attack. 1700 attack seems like it's pretty decent. You could take some pretty good trades and then just keep doing this over and over again. Interesting. You also buff the attack of this if you really wanted to and just like kill your opponent's stuff. Like in early Yu-Gi-Oh, this seems like a very interesting effect. Is there anything like this in Classic? I don't know. This is a very tough one because I guess this one really comes down to how good is it to just destroy like a lot of monsters at once. That if I say that like that, it sounds very, very strong.
I mean, Tribe Infecting Virus got banned for that. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but the difference between that and this is you don't have to attack it. Like you don't actually have to have more attack. You just kill it, and then you get to attack.
I'm answering your question.
No, you're right. You're right. I'm just responding to like, try to make sure I get this one right. Is this good enough? I feel like you're gonna tell me you could play this card, you could buff it up, you kill your whole opponent's board, and then your opponent has to rebuild their board, and then like they can't even deal with this because they went back to your hand, and then you just replay it again next turn, and it's like your opponent's crying. But
okay,
the question
is that what I'm gonna say?
That would be if it was banned or limited. I don't see another way of utilizing this card to be like broken. The question is that combo good enough in Yu-Gi-Oh for you to want to play? That's a difficult question. In Hearthstone, if I could do that, but Hearthstone has something significant. So let's say this had Rush.
Say it had Rush.
Kill this, but Hearthstone. So you're attacking individually. In Yu-Gi-Oh, it's interesting because it's like as long as you have more attack or more attack than their defense, you just kill them and you don't take damage, and then you go into the next one. Hearthstone's like you take the damage, you go on to the next one. So they don't really have an effect like this.
Right, because the Sora Priest would be taking damage in Hearthstone each time it would kill something. Unless they had like no attack, for instance.
Yeah, there's a card that was actually released recently in Hearthstone. I forget what it's called. I think it's like Big Bad Mosher or something. It's 8 mana 3/10. After this thing attacks, attack random minions until it dies pretty much, or until it like clears. That's pretty much what it does. That card did see play somewhat because if you could cheat it out, it's not bad. But like the monster would obviously just kill itself. If it lived, you're fucking stoked. But most of the time it just dies. In Yu-Gi-Oh, I feel like Masha would be very good if it worked like the Yu-Gi-Oh combat. Which makes me think this card is actually pretty good. I'm gonna go with limited. This is a very hard card to evaluate though. Like you've never really shown me anything like this before. I'd be curious.
Yeah, now you know how I felt when we did this with you. Like you're struggling too. You're struggling too.
Listen, you're acting like you're all naive here, brother. You played during Classic. You were there. I didn't play with this shit.
I like how like the one time I played on my work break 10 years ago when I first started YouTube. That's like everyone's like, "Oh, Simo played Classic." Yeah, all I remember is like Spider Tank. Okay, that's like the old and Water Elemental. That's like all I remember.
Listen, all right, you were there. That's all that mattered.
That's true. That is all that mattered for me anyway. All right, let's talk about Asura Priest. Asura Priest is sick. This card's really cool. I would say your evaluation of it's pretty spot on in terms of like how good it is. I don't know if I've shown you a spirit monster before. So spirit is a subtype that they all have the effect that they can't be special summoned, and during the end phase, they return back to your hand. This is like good and bad, and that's kind of one of the reasons I wanted to show this to you, because from Hearthstone's perspective, like you guys have tempo, and that tempo is a lot more important in Hearthstone than it is for Yu-Gi-Oh! It was more important in older Yu-Gi-Oh! I would say. But it's interesting, right? Because you play this guy, you can clear some opponent's things, and then if it survives, it comes back to your hand. So you don't really have a guy on the field anymore to really get in next turn, but it almost acts as this interesting form of protection for the monster itself, because now on the opponent's turn, let's say they have like Fissure or Tribe Infecting Virus, right? They can't kill the Asura Priest with either of those cards because it's back in your hand. So that actually sometimes is a benefit to having Asura Priest, because now it's like, well, shit, if I want to play something, I know that they have Asura Priest, so now I can't really play into it. So I have to like be mindful of that when I'm making my plays. And depending on what cards you have, that may or may not matter, but it was something that was very relevant. Its attack stat was actually very good for having an effect like this. 1700 is nothing to scoff at. Its being a light attribute was also very good as well. And it was just a very just above average card, I would say. There was enough instances where Asura Priest was good, but it was never banned and it was never limited. Okay. It was sort of like Air Knight Parshath, where it was a card that you would play maybe one of in a deck, and you'd be perfectly fine seeing it. It was searchable. And if you didn't see it, it wasn't the end of the world. Some decks might want to play multiple copies of it if they had some other cards that comboed with it, because there were a couple. The fact that it bounces back to your hand during the end phase, there's a card called Creature Swap. Creature Swap, you swap a monster with your opponent, so if you give them your Asura Priest, it comes back to your hand and you keep their monster, so that's very funny.
Oh, that's kind of sick.
Yeah, so like there were some cool things you could do with the spirit mechanic, but for the most part, just a very solid like one-of card that decks would play, depending on like what their game plan was. It was a card people considered.
That was a shot in the dark. I actually had no idea. Like that one stopped.
Is that you backpedaling? Is that you backpedaling?
No. Like I could have gone with like anything there, I think, and I would have been happy with what you said.
I see.
Listen, I think I gave you like my analysis was literally spot on to what you said. Like,
the answer was wrong. That's what you're getting points for.
Fuck, you're right. Teacher, I showed my work. Right. Come on, at least give me something.
This is you in our thumbnail photos.
What the fuck is this art, bro? Mirage of Nightmare. Wait, which one am I? Am I the dude?
You're the dude.
I think I'm the mummy next to it. It looks like he's about to cry. I'm not gonna lie to you. Once per turn during your opponent's standby phase, draw cards until you have 4 cards in hand. If you do during your next standby phase, after that, randomly discard the same number of cards you drew or your entire hand if you don't have enough cards. Okay, so if I draw 1, that means next turn I'm discarding 1. Wait, but this is like a continuous effect, so it doesn't after the discarding happens, like this card's done. Like, does that make like you don't like the next standby phase, you don't draw 4 cards again, right?
Why wouldn't you?
So you do? What do you mean, why wouldn't I? I'm asking you. What do you mean?
Read the card.
During your opponent's standby phase, draw cards until you have 4 cards in your hand. If you do, during your next standby phase, okay. All right. You think you're so funny. So that means you would randomly discard the same number of cards you drew or your entire hand if you don't have enough cards. But if I discard the same number of cards, can I just draw 4 more cards? Wait, is this card broken? Wait. You draw your cards. You use every card in your hand. You can't discard anything because there's nothing in your hand. Then you do it again.
Okay, let me help you out here. Let me help you out here.
Okay.
You activate Mirage of Nightmare. Okay. You activate Mirage of Nightmare.
Yeah.
Let's say that's all you do. You pass the turn. Your opponent's standby phase comes around. They draw for a turn. It's their standby phase. You draw until you have 4 cards in hand. So in your example, let's say
I'm reading this wrong. Okay, sorry, you're right. Okay, I see where I'm fucking around here. Okay, no, so you're drawing on your opponent's turn, and then you discard on your standby phase. Okay, I understand.
There you go.
I'm being an idiot.
There you go.
Okay, sorry. I'm not gonna lie to you. What happened there was I saw draw cards until you have 4 in hand, and I said, okay, that sounds pretty broken, and then I blacked out. Like that's
to be fair, from Yu-Gi-Oh player perspective, that makes sense. That makes sense.
I stopped reading after that point. I'm pretty sure. I was just saying it out loud. Okay, now that I got it. Okay, so if you would only want to do this if you said to yourself, I really need removal. But even then, if you're drawing, like if your hand is ass, you play this card, you draw 1, you just discard the worst card in your hand, you got a better card most of the time. Also helps you with cycling. Also puts stuff in your graveyard.
Remember, the card you discard is random. or cards.
Oh, you're right. You are right. You are right. I hate this card, but I love it at the same time. How does how does the discard work? Like your opponent like just picks one?
Yeah, so you in the old days, people just kind of just like they would reach across the table and just yank a card out of your hand. Nowadays, people will like put their hand down on the table and like number it from like 1 through 6 and then roll a die and then be like, okay.
That's cool. That's cool. Okay. So let me just recap this. I thought this card was so good at first glance. I was like, holy fuck, this is so good. The more I hate reading it, just ruins the day. Like honestly, like now this card just seems so bad. Randomly discarding. So you would do this. Okay. So if your hand sucks, you want to draw more cards. You would only, okay, in this case, you're only doing this is if your entire hand is, if you're happy with any card in your hand to be discarded, or you desperately need to find something to like deal with what your opponent is doing. So if I'm playing a card, I'm already down 1. That means in order for this to do anything, you have to draw at least 1 at some point. Would I rather just not play a different card at that point? This card is like, if there's a deck that supports this is the best card in the deck. I think most of the time, like you're not playing this card. It's too random for Yu-Gi-Oh! Like even in Hearthstone, I wouldn't want to play it. Well, in Hearthstone, because of how some discard effects do work, like this card could be really, really good. But for the most part, like I think the way that Yu-Gi-Oh!, at least of what I've seen, I don't think you want this. I'm pretty sure the only reason you would really want this though is to find something to deal with your opponent's stuff, because you'd be happy to discard a card if that meant you lived another turn. But I think this is bad. So I'm gonna go unlimited. I'm actually really hoping there's like a really cool way you can do this where you utilize this card. If I'm basing this how I first read the card's insane and it's banned. But well, let's see what you have to say.
What if I show you this card?
Now, last time he showed me a card. What does this have to do with the other card? Wait, what? Mystic Space Typhoon. Target 1 spell/trap card on the field, destroy that target. I understand what you're saying to me. I understand. Listen, the cogs are turning. You would draw cards and then you would play this so that you don't have to deal with the repercussions of using the nightmare. If that's the case, I mean, okay, so this is a question. Hold on. If I cue this Typhoon up, that means it's out of my hand. Can I draw afterwards and then the Typhoon would proc? Like, does that make sense? Or like, do I have to draw the cards first and then play the Typhoon? Like, I'm just thinking how like the stack would work.
I'm trying to answer your question, but the way you presented it to me doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Say it again.
Okay. So you have Mirage in hand. All right.
Okay. All right.
You also have Typhoon in hand.
Okay.
You play your Mirage, you play your Typhoon, right? That goes on the stack. But then before that actually resolves, I want to use the effect of Mirage. Can I do that? So I get max value to draw all the cards? Or no?
You're drawing the cards during your opponent's standby phase.
Okay, dude, I keep reading the card based on how I initially read it. No, but hold on. Am I still cooking here? Hold on. Okay. Yeah. No, I'm still cooking because you could use Typhoon. It's a quick card, right? It's a quick effect. So you play Mirage, you pass, and then you use the Typhoon on the Mirage, but before it actually resolves, you draw 4 cards. Does that work? Did you understand what I'm saying? Okay, never mind.
That's such a weird way that you would use that.
It is possible.
It's possible, yeah.
Shit. Okay, so this card's broke. No, I'm kidding. It's probably I think it's unlimited, but I'm hoping you tell me it's actually good. But for the record, by the way, that might have been the worst reading comprehension I think I've ever had in my life. I think that was the most documented version of that. I just want everyone to be kind. Like, I'm pretty sure if I read the comments of this video, it's gonna be like, man, Rare needs help or something along those lines. And I don't need help. I just listen. Sorry, what was the answer to those?
So if the MST Mirage of Nightmare combo works, you still think it's unlimited?
I'm just hoping you get full value off of it. Wait, are you telling me this card's like the nuts? Please.
This card is still banned today.
Damn.
If you can believe that. So this was the combo. So it's exactly like you said. So it wouldn't. It doesn't have to necessarily play out the way that you said it, but there's a slightly different way that it could play out at times. So you didn't always necessarily have to have Mirage plus Mystical Space Typhoon. How it could work is you activate Mirage of Nightmare. Let's say you don't have Mystical Space Typhoon, and let's say you emptied your hand, so you have 0 cards. Your opponent's turn comes around, you draw 4 cards. If you drew Mystical Space Typhoon in those 4 cards, when the turn comes back around to you, before Mirage of Nightmare activates, you can activate Mystical Space Typhoon in your draw or standby phase since it's a quick play spell to destroy Mirage of Nightmare before it resolves. So you don't even have to have Mystical Space Typhoon in your hand in order to keep those 4 cards. And so there was a point where when Mirage of Nightmare was printed, that this is what every deck had in their deck, because this just says effectively it says draw 3 cards, because if you draw 4 and you MST your own Mirage, you're down to 3 at that point.
Yeah.
But so it was like Pot of Greed at home, if you will. But even so, just keeping Mirage of Nightmare up to just cycle through cards wasn't like the worst. It's kind of like what you said, right? In the instance where you have to let it like resolve in the way where you're drawing cards and randomly discarding, if you find an answer that lets you either like win the game or buys you another turn if you're losing the game, you're still getting deeper into your deck at the end of the day, right? And those cards are going to the graveyard, so there's synergy to bring them back to the field. Just an absolutely just absurd card. And I think even by today's standards, Mirage is just really good from the perspective of it's a way to like dump 4 cards from your hand into the graveyard very quickly. It's probably too slow in all honesty for today. I'm not sure why this card's still banned, but there is just like a lot of ways to abuse this card. And back in the day, it was very heavily abused. It was one of the first banned cards, and it's still been on the ban list ever since.
Yeah, I gotta show you a card from Hearthstone that might, actually, I'm gonna show you this right now. I want you to evaluate this card real fast. Speaking of this one, hold on. This will blow Yu-Gi-Oh players' minds based on this card. You think this card's good?
Voracious Reader, 3 mana, 1/3. At the end of your turn, draw until you have 3 cards. Draw until you have 3 cards. Depending on the type of deck, this card would be crazy. Yes.
What would you say if I told you it was released at 2 mana?
It was released at 2 mana?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that'd be even crazier than by Yu-Gi-Oh!
So like that, I look at Mirage of Nightmare and I go, yeah, that's a pretty good card. And then I'm just thinking of this the whole time because like, yeah, you're drawing it on your opponent's turn, which is effectively the end of your turn.
Right, right.
So I was like, damn, like this is nothing. you guys are nothing when it comes to draw. Yeah, this card is fun.
We don't. Yeah, like again, Pot of Greed was legal during this time. There was a couple other draw cards, but when this was printed, there wasn't many, like Pot of Greed was limited. There was, I think, one other really good draw card that was limited. This was like the next good draw card. And so when people are just wanting to draw cards, you're going to do whatever you can so that you can do that. And yeah, Mirage was a fantastic outlet for that. I was trying to think of a fun way to get this card into a video. And I was curious what you were going to think about this. And so it's funny that you thought this card was unlimited.
I mean, it's like, I don't know. It's interesting.
It's Yu-Gi-Oh!
Drawing is so tough for me because in Hearthstone, we just have so much of it. Like, I truly don't know what you guys go through because it's just so easy to get through a deck. Like, it's crazy. Like, we have games, dude, where it's like turn 3 and there's like 15 cards left in my deck and we start with 30. Like,
well, see, modern Yu-Gi-Oh! So do we, but we're not drawing them. We just have cards that search cards that search cards. And then we're down to like 10 cards in deck. So that's like the difference. But older Yu-Gi-Oh! Was not like that at all.
I get you. Okay.
All right. Next card.
It's funny. Magic Cylinder. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, target the attacking monster, negate the attack, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to its attack. Whoa, what the hell? Interesting.
Is there any secrets like this in Hearthstone? I feel like this would make for a good secret card.
There's Misdirection, which is probably the closest, which says when an enemy, not even a minion, like it could be your opponent because of the weapons. When an enemy attacks your hero, it randomly targets something else on the board.
Interesting. We have something else that's similar to that too.
That's, I think, the closest. I guess there's also stuff like, no, nothing really like this. That'd be the closest, but it doesn't act. Oh, okay, hold on. There's one that says if your opponent plays 3 cards in a turn, deal damage to them. Like, but nothing really like this. It doesn't just do the damage back to your opponent.
Well, did Misdirection see play? I guess is what I'm asking.
No.
Okay.
So let me say secrets in Classic, because Hunter did utilize secrets, but the benefit of secrets, especially ones they designed for Classic, were like you knew what was in the game, so it was up to you to think about what were people playing. So sometimes you would just get people off guard with misdirections. In tournaments, however, though, like it was inconsistent that you wouldn't play it.
Interesting.
It was a fun card though. Like it really, like that's a very Hearthstone-y card because there are moments where people attack into your face and then they die to like hacking into their rag or something. It's very funny. Nothing like this though, as far as I'm thinking. I just can't think of anything that's like 1-to-1. This card's funny because it's like your opponent thinks they're gonna get lethal, then you go say like psych, and then they just fucking die. So
yep. Yep.
How likely is that to be resolved? I guess. So the second part of this is really like cool, and like I think that is a pro. I think you're really doing this for negating the attack. I think that's the way more important thing here, even though it could potentially get you lethal or like set you up for lethal. The question is that better than just killing off a minion? I just how like it really seems like from all these videos and from what we've like played, like you don't really get big monsters that often. Like I'm talking like older Yu-Gi-Oh. I'm thinking in later Yu-Gi-Oh, it's much easier. So like I'm thinking like the dream here is like if you stop Blue Eyes from attacking, you're like the happiest person in the world and your opponent just took 3,000 damage, right? Like that you're stoked. But realistically, how happy are you to just do this for your opponent to like get 1,700 to their life points? Is that really that like that's an interesting question. I don't think this is that good. In Hearthstone, would this see play? Negate the attack and deal the damage. Hearthstone has too many tokens for this to be playable. The good thing about trap cards is like you can do this whenever you want.
You have agency over when you're activating.
Yeah, like secrets are like you play this and just hope your opponent doesn't know what they're doing, right? So it's tougher for this to be like playable in Hearthstone. In Yu-Gi-Oh, it's cool to be like, oh, attack with your shitter. I'm not gonna flip this over, and then like they attack with their good monster, and then you just win, right?
Yeah.
So I can see it being played. I don't think it's good enough to get limited or banned. Again, these are ones where I'd be like absolutely shocked if it was banned. Limited maybe, but I think it's unlimited.
All right, let's talk about Magic Cylinder then. So Magic Cylinder, this is actually one of the anime cards. This is one of Yugi's cards. It's very funny. It's just very ridiculous and stupid. And this card is actually, by old Yu-Gi-Oh standards, incredibly powerful. The reason for that is because for the short amount of time that it was available at 3 copies, burn was already not necessarily a strategy that you would not see very often. Burn was around. Burn was a deck. And so now that Magic Cylinder was printed, all of a sudden you have like maybe one of the best burn cards ever printed at this time, just because it's able to deal like a quarter of like your opponent's life points and damage like straight back at them, and it fades an attack, right? Which if you're playing burn, that's all you could ever ask for at the end of the day. So much so that this card was in fact limited to 1 copy.
Really? Wow. What the fuck?
This card was limited. It was arguably one of the best burn cards printed at the time. Even regular decks would consider playing a copy of this card because, like you said, it does negate an attack, and there are the times that like you would kill your opponent just straight back at them, because if they're at like less than 2,000 life points and they attack with something with 2,000 attack, you just win the game automatically, right?
Right.
I think it's just because Yu-Gi-Oh is so aggressive, considering like we don't have summoning sickness and there's all these other factors at play, that by older Yu-Gi-Oh standards, it kind of like could be understandable that a card like this might get limited. I want to say it wasn't like a very unique effect. There was, because it's weird, right? It is a -1. Like you're not killing off the monster. So there's a lot of downsides to this card. And a lot of people would say that this card is bad, even by like old Yu-Gi-Oh standards. I think it's just really, it's more like the burn aspect to it than anything else, I would probably say. It just made it like really, really good.
Yeah, I guess it's like damage and you're getting an attack is like probably fine. I'm just surprised it was limited. I didn't think that would be that strong.
I honestly, I'm surprised it was limited to be honest with you. But I was never like a burn person, so maybe like, you know, playing the burn decks, it just felt like the best card ever. I could
Is
see
it unlimited now?
It's unlimited now. Yeah, no one would play this card today.
Okay.
There's even a card that searches this card out and doubles the damage that it would reflect back to your opponent, and that also doesn't see play because that card's also bad. So it's funny that they make like fun little retrain things. They have made other cards like Magic Cylinder. There's a card called Dimension Wall. Dimension Wall is Magic Cylinder, but it doesn't negate the attack. I know what the difference is. The difference is they have to be attacking you directly for you to Dimension Wall them. So it doesn't negate any monster's attack. So you can't protect your monsters with Magic Cylinder or with Dimension Wall. Where like Magic Cylinder negates any attack if it's monster or if it's coming to face, for instance.
Okay.
So even like burn decks, that would be prominent later throughout Yu-Gi-Oh's history would play Magic Cylinder, even though it was limited, just because it was like one of the best cards at dealing burn damage to the opponent.
You can't Magic Cylinder or Magic Cylinder, right?
No, that's something that everyone thinks you can do for some fucking reason. And I don't know why, but
based on what you just said, it sounded like you could. I didn't think that was until you said it like that, but That's I was gonna say it'd be so fucking funny to go, yeah, I'm gonna magic cylinder your creature. You're like, no. I'm gonna magic cylinder your magic cylinder. Like, that'd be crazy.
No, I will say there was a non-zero amount of times that would happen on the playground, and we didn't know better, so no one would correct you, and you'd get away with murder. So
I mean, that's so funny. That's so funny.
It's something that would happen in the anime, to be fair. So
yeah. It sounds very anime.
all right, last card, Raren. Last card. Let's see if you can end on a high note here.
We wasted. All right, it's been so long that I've lost my touch. Oh man. All right, lava golem. This is a big boy. Can't be normal summon / set. Must first be special summoned from your hand to your opponent's field by tributing 2 monsters they can. Okay. Okay. You cannot normal summon / set this turn. You special summon this card. You cannot normal summon / set the turn you special summon this card. So that this takes your like action.
This takes your normal summon. Correct?
Once per turn during your standby phase, take 1,000 damage. This card's fucking insane. I think this card's like egregious. Man, I can't even imagine playing a game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And your opponent says, yeah, I'm going to summon my lava golem and I'm going to take 2 of your creatures.
Yep.
That seems
See, that's you in the cage.
It makes, I mean, put me in the cage and kill me if that happens in a game. That's crazy. That sounds like something that would make me not want to play Yu-Gi-Oh! For the rest of the day. If that happened to me in the playground, I'd be like, Mom, I'm done with this game. Can we go buy Pokemon cards? I think this is very like good. Like I think this is very good. I'm gonna go with
cool card, huh? Cool card.
Cool is for the player for sure. I'm gonna go with its banned. I'm really excited to hear what you have to say about this. Like, if it's not playable, I'd be very shocked.
Final answer? You don't have anything else, really. That was a very quick evaluation.
I think tributing 2 monsters your opponent controls seems pretty good. I guess there's the circumstances where this card sits in your hand and does literally nothing because you can't summon this. Like if your opponent knows you're running this, like they just never play 2 monsters and this card sits in your hand. If you're playing like best of ones and you just drop this on your opponent, like they're so sad. Like they're miserable.
So Lava Golem, this is such a cool card. This is classic Yu-Gi-Oh! Right here. Lava Golem, we were just talking about burn with Magic Cylinder. This was also one of the best burn cards ever printed, I want to say. The reason for it was twofold. One, it lets you tribute off your opponent's monsters. So if they had anything that was a problem for you to deal with, you get to give them this giant Lava Golem. To be fair, giving them a 3,000 attack point monster on the surface doesn't necessarily sound very good for you, right? But when you have cards like Magic Cylinder that can reflect the damage back at them, sure, they might switch it to attack position and try to attack you for 3,000 damage. Guess what? Magic Cylinder, bitch. Yeah, and now they just take 3,000 back.
Oh, so, there it is.
Yep, there it is. Dealing 1,000 points of damage each turn is phenomenal. There's plenty of cards during this time that make it so that Lava Golem can't attack. So if you don't have the setup for like Magic Cylinder or anything, you can just make it so that they just are sitting on this Lava Golem, and after so many turns, they're just going to die because they can't get rid of the Lava Golem off their field. If they don't have a way to tribute it, or if they don't have some sort of board wipe type card, you could like Tribe Infecting Virus, call Fiend, and destroy your own Lava Golem, I guess. That would be a way to out it. But there was like not a ton of ways to deal with this card. Lava Golem, similar to Book of Moon, actually sees modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Play, if you can believe that. Lava Golem, yeah, so the tributing effect is very relevant, and this will be good for you because you played Sword Soul. Your typical end board when you played Sword Soul was what, like Chi Shao plus like Baron, right? Yeah. Guess what? You can have a Lava Golem and your guys go to the graveyard, right? So you just answered these 2 really menacing monsters your opponent has with a single Lava Golem. And yeah, you don't get to normal summon or set for the turn, but especially as Yu-Gi-Oh! Age, special summoning is a lot more popular. That doesn't really matter all that much. And yeah, sometimes it can come up, but for the most part, you're happy to get rid of a Baron de Fleur and a Chi Shao for a Lava Golem at the end of the day. There's even an entire archetype that is a Fiend-centric, that there's like random support that Lava Golem has synergy with, which is very funny and sometimes comes up. But yeah, Lava Golem has actually seen play within the past year or 2, which is very funny. But was never banned. Was never, ever banned. Never limited. Just, for all intents and purposes, just a very good Yu-Gi-Oh! Card. Kind of niche in its application. It's not like every deck in old Yu-Gi-Oh! Was playing this. It's not like every deck in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Plays this. It's, more for the most part, I would say it's a side deck card. Main decked only in circumstances where, like, the game is so degenerate that you need to tribute off your opponent's things before you can start playing the game. But by older Yu-Gi-Oh standards, unless you were playing a burn deck specifically, you wouldn't really play Lava Golem. It was too much of a liability because you wouldn't have the deck or the resources to deal with giving your opponent a 3,000 attack point monster. But very fun design, very just awesome card all around, but never banned. You have lost your touch, buddy.
This is bad. This was bad. This was horrible. I don't feel so good. This might be the last one. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if I'm gonna
No, we still have so much more ground to cover, buddy. What do you mean?
We got 13 years to still go through. What do you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
That was bad. That was bad.
Yeah.
I don't even think I got the first one right. I think
you got the first one right and everything else wrong.
Yeah. Oh, don't say like.
Now I know how I felt in your video.
Again, you fucking played through Cloudlifter.
What was your favorite card that you saw today? What was your favorite? Probably the Lava Golem. You seem to really like the Lava
I'm gonna
Golem.
go for the Knight because it's the only one I got right.
Oh my god.
Hope you can hear the disappointment in my voice.
So guys, that's going to wrap it up for another video. I really hope you all enjoyed. Let's go ahead and shout the patrons for all of their continued support. So shoutouts to Shadow1317, Tim00x3, MBT Play Medolce, Moto, Cameron L. Smith, The Synchro Guy, Pony Stark, Dan the Man Hoban, Little Fade Leaf, Draconic, Dylan Rare Hunter, JW11860, Brian Dancer of Class 7, Flannel Daddy, Twinkle Muncher, literally all of the guinea pigs, Cheeks McLapperty, Stolfin Amethyst, MBT Cancel Bio Community soon, Cancel Bio Committee soon, Cancel Bio Player soon, Wonder Waffle, Main Phase Tua, Synchro on that thing, Daniel Howell, Life Keeps Using Solemn Judgment on My Hopes and Dreams, and Naveed Mandavi. Thank you so much again for watching, and we will see you next time.